we're going to get started now. Hi guys, thank you very much for joining in for episode 3 of A Question of the Ferrers Sport. Here we have Dan Bigham, who is a pro cyclist, both road and track, also rides for Ribble, Pro Cycling and Hoob Veiltight, but also a cool part of his day-to-day living is aerodynamics and performance engineer for Watchshop. So he's not just a pro, he's also a really cool thing called aerodynamics, which we'll touch upon later on. Dan's been really successful lately, and he's got a bronze medal in 2009 team in the mixed team time trial. So, Dan, over to you. Talk to us about your journey from when you first rode that bike all the way through to now where we are.
I guess, yeah, it's hard to summarise quickly, but I'll go for it. In that sport for me has always just been a big thing in life, whether that's as a kid, football, rugby, tennis, swimming. I've dabbled in quite literally everything and never committed wholeheartedly to one sport, just enjoyed it. At university, I was studying motorsport engineering and just, fell in love with the sort of aero, techie, nerdy stuff that goes with cycling. I always wanted to work in Formula One. And when I got there, I kind of discovered it wasn't quite what I wanted. It was a lot of long, hard hours, whereas sport is a lot more sort of outside and enjoyable. And tying the two together was a big win for me. So I went back to uni and did a bit more studying, trying to tie in basically cycling into as many university engineering projects as I could. And then since then, it's just continued to grow in that they obviously interlink hugely. That cycling is, well, not in fact, no, all sports now are incredibly technology focused. They have to be if you want to win. Like that's the way you get an advantage on your competitors. But I guess I'm lucky that I can tie in my knowledge and my background with the sport that I love, and have obviously progressed quite well in and competing, at a world-class level now.
That's cool. So a little bit of cheating going on with the aerodynamic gains there with your own sort of gear, which is great, using what you've got. Brilliant. How did you first get into cycling? So what was it that got you into cycling?
Through a rugby injury, actually. I played rugby to a good level, and then bit by bit, my body got broken, as probably most rugby players know. It's shoulders and, well, practically anything's up for an injury in rugby. And one of my friends was like, just have a go at athletics. It's something I'd done as a kid. I'd always raced on the track. I think hurdles and long jump were the two major ones. And I joined the athletics club at uni, and then one of the sort of big guys there was keen to push me more towards the triathlon side of things. So I went from rugby injury through athletics through to triathlon, and then through triathlon realised, well, I'm not really a great swimmer and running's probably not my thing. So actually I'll have a go at the cycling instead. So through sort of 3 years or so of dabbling in triathlon, I then ended up just purely riding my bike. And then as I graduated, I picked up a role actually working with a performance consultancy with British Athletics primarily. So I was helping mostly sprinters, but basically everyone in British Athletics to try and progress towards winning Olympic gold. But while I was there, I kind of realised all the support that I was giving these professional athletes, I wanted myself. It was a bit of jealousy, I'd say. So that at that point, I decided I'd set up my own company that meant I could support myself through using my own knowledge in cycling, and then sort of dive in with all my free time into trying to be a top level cyclist. So it was quite late. I was 21 when I threw my leg over a bicycle properly. So I'm definitely not one of those guys who jumped in at age 10 and committed then, but that's not to say you can't be successful. You've just got to go wholeheartedly with it.
No, obviously that links in nicely with my next question. So what motivates you? So obviously the motivating factor that you probably started you off with the journey of becoming a pro was seeing all these other people, wasn't it?
Yeah, you see everyone else achieving great success, and I think it's quite inspiring, but you want that for yourself. Everyone to a certain extent is a bit selfish. They want to achieve really cool things, and I think that was one side, but I guess as well the engineering tying in so well, they go hand in hand in that you can either train harder or smarter or better, or you can be a bit of a nerd and make a faster helmet or skin suit or wheel, or do both, and then bit by bit you can move your way forward. And I think tying those two together is fairly unique. Not many people within the sport compete at a high level as well as work at a high level, so I'm fairly, unique in that aspect. But I do think it will become more commonplace in the next decade that athletes at the top level will be a lot more educated about what goes into their performance from a science perspective, from an engineering perspective. So they know a lot more about physiology, nutrition, equipment, the physics of what their event demands of them, because they have to be, because if your competitor's doing that and they're getting an advantage, and if you're not doing it, you're behind.
Yeah, so you could almost be a pioneer of the new wave of athletes, cyclists, and sports stars, I suppose, which is obviously really exciting for us to be a part of and see that. Was there any inspiration of part of your journey, or did you have a role model within your life?
I think I've always took great inspiration from Formula One, just from my passion for that sport and how they approach problems. That effectively, if they want a solution, they'll find a way for it. Whereas there's often so much in sport, every sport actually. I mean, cycling's bad for it, but from my experience now, in every sport I've come across has the same problem where they do things the way they're always done, and that always frustrated me. Of like, well, that's never a good reason to do something because someone else has just done it before you. And Formula One was a big inspiration because so many engineers in there. Colin Chapman was probably my favourite, but Adrian Newey and a lot of the big nerds came in and said, well, I don't care how you've done it before because we're going to do it better and we'll find a way. And I think that for me was always just an inspiring way of approaching a problem, whether it is sports or engineering, just trying to do things better and do it for the right reasons.
Yeah, I suppose that's the way we're going about things, hence why this has been set up, because we want to get insight into what you guys know, because you've gone to the elite level. So I want to feed that back into our students and get them to understand, not just from us as teachers, obviously we have a massive influence, but hearing from you guys actually sort of should be a little bit more interesting for them, but also a little bit more meaningful. Got a random question here from one of the students. Britain are great at cycling. Why are we so good?
That is a good question. Multiple reasons. So I think a few factors. One, we're really good at talent ID, or I say really good. We're better than everyone else. It's not perfect. No system ever is. There's always ways to be better. But the thing about performance is you've got to beat somebody. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than them. And we're better than them at finding athletes. And then we're better than most countries as well at developing them. And then the final point is putting them on the fastest equipment in the best position and just executing everything very well. We're by no means perfect. There's always room for improvement. And that's why every Olympic cycle, we're getting faster and faster. But it's just staying ahead of the curve and staying ahead of your competition that is the reason why we're so good.
That's cool. Nice, obviously tying both of your backgrounds into that, isn't it, as well? So that's ideal. What's your favourite, road or track, and why?
Track. Every single day of the week. Don't get me wrong, I ride on the road a huge amount and I do enjoy it, especially for the getting outside and just adventuring and exploring new places. But the good thing about track cycling is it's so controlled, it's so scientific. It's for scientific experiments, it's an absolute dream because you don't have hills, you don't have wind, you don't have potholes and corners and everything else. It's pretty much just riding in a circle, and the maths comes out, relatively speaking, quite easy. So it's really enjoyable for that, and you can go pretty quick. I think that's the other thing. On the road, if you're 50k an hour, you're going pretty fast. If you're doing 50k an hour on the track, you're probably going quite slow, actually, in the grand scheme of things. So
I'd love to get to 50k on the track. I've only been on one track, in all fairness. It was the Manchester Velodrome, so it was pretty scary stuff going on first time, but now I did enjoy it, in all fairness. Just about training now. So what does a normal training day or work day look like for you, and how do you split your time between aerodynamic engineer and also pro cyclist?
It's not easy, I'd say, first and foremost. So running a business is stressful in itself. And then I also work with a few other pro teams. So with Jumbo Visma, Canyon SRAM and the Danish Federation. So there's a lot of other work going on. So you have to be very proactive and structured in your day-to-day life. You can't just wake up, mull about a bit and then go, I'll go and ride my bike this afternoon. It's wake up, okay, today I've got 2 hours or 4 hours, even 6 hours some days to do on the trainer or out on the road. And then you know that you have to structure calls and meetings and work. And it might mean that, you have to work till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night sometimes. And that's just a necessary part of the problem. But I think it gives the advantage of being able to do this. Like, I don't think many cyclists or many engineers get to balance both sides of it and get to compete at the highest level. So it's a necessary evil, and I don't think it's wholly sustainable for years and years and years, because you do have to sacrifice so much more in your life. You can't go out and meet your mates and go for a party or whatever else. Well, obviously not in COVID now, but usually. But yeah, it's the sacrifices you make, I think, are worth it, but it just means being very, very structured. So for me, training wise, I'm probably doing, give or take, 20 hours a week on the bike. So that's fairly well structured. It's not just riding around quite casual. It's with an intent. It's all measured power, heart rate, speed, and having set targets and set intervals to do. So being very scientific about the approach as well, and especially when you come towards competition, ensuring you're mimicking the demands of the event as close as you can. So I'm preparing for an hour record at the moment, and a whole lot of longer efforts, fairly high intensity, but controlled and in the position, and making sure I'm at the right power, cadence, everything else, just very replicable of the event. Simple as that.
Oh, cool. On that, what power are you looking at to output for that event?
So for the hour record, hopefully around 370 watts, which, well, yeah, it's hard. It's not world class. I'm definitely not physiologically the best athlete in the world by any stretch, but what matters for the hour is the power to your drag coefficient. So I'm probably one of the most aero guys in the world. So when you divide one by the other, I'm pretty much up there. But yeah, 370 for me is hopefully one of the best powers I'll have done for an hour ever.
Sounds cool. And my next question was going on to your aims and goals for 2021. So obviously the power output and record there will be obviously one of your goals. I suppose you have a number broken down throughout the season. What are they?
So big ones for me are time trials on the road, actually, because the track this year is all focused towards Tokyo Olympics, and unfortunately I'm not representing GB. I'm working for the Danish Federation, so I'll be there helping out, but I won't be on track racing. So for me is road time trials. I want to win the national TT champs. I want to go to the Europeans and to the Worlds, both individual and team time trials. So they're big focuses for me, and hopefully as well build towards Commonwealth Games in 2022 in Birmingham. That's a big one. Hopefully a real good result there.
Yeah, obviously very, very exciting. Is it bringing it to Birmingham, and where are they having the cycling tracks?
In London, actually. They vetoed having a new track in Birmingham, which is a great shame. I would have loved that. You can never have too many velodromes, but I appreciate we do have quite a few in the UK, so using one they've already made is fair enough.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one down in London as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice place to go to, especially with the history of the Olympics that they had there. It's a pretty awesome track.
So the next part is about the aerodynamics and Watch Shop, and just to explain what Watch Shop actually is to students, because obviously they probably won't have heard of it. I have been a triathlete myself, but they won't. So just explain what it is and where it started.
Okay, so Watch Shop started back in March 2016. So, oh God, that's been a while now. I keep forgetting how long it's been, nearly 5 years. Okay, and the reason it started is I was doing a lot of both component design, but also things like treating of chains, but consultancy for myself to make myself faster. And you realize there's a big market for that. Just generally, people want to buy go faster components because they make them go quicker, simple as that. And the market, both in the UK and worldwide, was growing as understanding of power meters and aerodynamics became more democratized and more well understood. So I just jumped in with that, and we've basically grown from just me to now being effectively 5 people are employed within Watch Shop. And we design and develop custom bespoke componentry for bikes. So whether it's handlebars, extensions, cranksets, some smaller pieces as well. Carbon fiber composites, we use 3D printing quite often as well. And then we also do consultancy for a number of teams, both on the road and on the track, just helping them to go faster, typically in time trials, but we also help on the road racing side, whether that's developing faster clothing, positions, doing analysis of events or modeling to try and basically get the athletes as well prepared for an event as they can be, so they know what they need to do to execute to achieve the performances that they want.
Perfect. Have you got a favourite piece of kit that you like to work on the most?
I do love skin suits, just for the complexity. I could talk at length about skin suits, but they're more than just a bit of fabric that you put on your body. They can make a huge difference, and people don't particularly realise. And I mean, for example, a pair of socks back in 2017, we had our breakthrough national championships on the track, and we won by 0.4 of a second in the team suit, which is about a 4-minute event. And just that morning, we had our brand new aero socks rock up that we'd been designing for the last few months. And those aero socks, just the socks between a normal pair of cotton socks and the aero sock, was worth about 2 seconds. So a pair of socks won as a national championship. And a lot of people, their minds are blown by that. So you think that's just your socks and you apply it to your whole body. It's so important. It's a bit of a nightmare at the same time. It's quite complex, but it's enjoyable at the same time. So,
yeah, I suppose obviously you understand it, and it's good for the students to be able to hear that sort of detail that goes into the elite level that we sort of don't see from just viewing sport. I think that's why, obviously, it's nice to hear that has an absolute massive impact on your life, but also the gains that you're trying to get. Superb. We've got a few cyclists at the Ferrers at the minute, and some of them are even using Zwift. I had a photo of someone using Zwift. Do you use Zwift much yourself, or do you prefer to go out on the road?
I've started to get back into Zwift. I raced a lot on it about 1.5 2 years ago. Just thoroughly enjoyed it. The kind of feeling of pinning a number on but not, and racing with your mates was good fun. I think the last year or so I've tried to ride outside as much as I can because of lockdown and you feel like you're inside all the time. But I'm getting back into Zwift the last few weeks, so I've been on it a fair bit. I'm not high level. I think I'm only level 20, level 21. So I'd say I do a reasonable amount, but I'm not on there all day, every day. But I do think it's a fantastic platform. It's really cool.
Yeah. What advice would you give the students? Would you say try and mix it up or stick to one, or?
Find which you enjoy, and I imagine that's going to be a variety. So I think if you're enjoying what you're doing, then you're probably going to invest a lot more time and effort into it. So if you like riding outside and smashing up hills and stealing Strava comms, then go and do a load of that. If you like racing on Zwift and beating your mates there, then do that as well. But find what you enjoy and do that.
Yeah, cool. And finally, from me, what's your career highlight so far? And next one, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Career highlight. I'll go with 2 if that's okay. So on the road was the World Champs in Harrogate 2019 in the team time trial. We're there with some of my best mates and my girlfriend on the podium. Pretty outrageous to go and do it, and we were such underdogs. So on the road, definitely that. And then on the track, probably go with London World Cup, which is way back in 2018, which is scary how long it feels ago now. But we won the team pursuit there, and just to win your home World Cup is something so awesome. I don't think many people ever achieve it. So that was definitely the highlight on the track. Where do I see in the future? Hopefully our record, that's a big one. I really want to achieve that. COVID has been a big curveball for everybody, myself included, and the track team, and we've not been able to race how we want to and do what we want to do. But that's one that I've been able to be a little bit selfish with and say I'm targeting the hour record and going for it, and just finding the right time and moment to go and do it, because it's a scary thing to say that you're better than everyone who's gone before you in a single hour event. So you've got to put your money where your mouth is and go with that. So that's a big one for me. And then beyond that, hopefully good time trials on the road and be able to go to the Commonwealth Games and represent England. Cool.
Well, thank you very much for that, Dan. It's been really, really insightful both to hear about your pro cycling journey, but also about the aerodynamics and watch up. So thanks very much. That's episode 3 done. So that is a question of Ferrers Sport with Mr. Arnold and our special guest today, Dan Bigham. Thank you, Dan. Have a good one.